Hello and welcome back to the Rope Access and Climbing Podcast, YouTube edition. I'm your host, Mikey Stevenson, and today I'm diving into another episode of Acceptable or Unacceptable. If this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. So stay tuned. Step into your harness and get ready for a podcast about the vertical world. All right, well, let's dive into today's episode. So first and foremost, thank you very much to each and every single one of you that commented on Facebook of this scenario, as well the people that chimed in on Instagram. Okay, so thank you very much. Keep it up. Plenty more of these coming your way. Now, first and foremost, just let you know that there is 1,001 ways to rig everything out there. So, keep the judgment to a minimal. Have an open mind, if you will, when we're looking at these acceptable, unacceptable episodes, as it may not be the same way that you're familiar with or a way that you do it yourself, but it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. Keep in mind as well that there's very little right or wrong in rope access. There's a lot of gray. And I have to say that there's a lot more acceptable than there is unacceptable. So at the end of the day, what we have to come to the conclusion here is it safe or is it not? That'll be the definition between acceptable or unacceptable. All right, so let's dive in here. So the scenario here is an individual rigged up a pull-through, just finished de-rigging a bunch of ropes, industrial setting, obviously working with an I-beam. Keep in mind that in this training environment, there's no I-beams. So we, yes, have an aluminum truss structure, but the scenario is on an I-beam with some abrasive edges. So is this acceptable or is this not? Before we dive into that, though, let's break this down from start to finish. All right, so we have a rope here, 2 alpine butterflies on one side, and then straight ropes on the other side. Both carabiners, one carabiner is clipped into each independent alpine butterfly. Both carabiners are clipped into the 2 vertical lines. First rule when operating pull-throughs such as this is do not ride the butterfly. And what does that mean is basically at the end of the day, do not clip onto the butterfly side of this, as that is the pull strand. There's a lot of options you can do to eliminate that hazard. But in this circumstance, it is as basic as it gets. So last week's podcast there, one of the things I did say was just keep it simple, stupid. Okay. This is as basic as a pull through can get. So what else do we have here? We have 2 pieces of rope protection here, one on each of the ropes. Each rope pro is connected to an independent carabiner. Both of the gates of the screw gates are facing the one direction, and the bottom carabiner is open. So there are a couple people that did notice that, and good eye. That's awesome. Great. Not a very easy thing to see necessarily, and especially from afar. But obviously I have a photo of the front side and the back side, and you were able to catch that. So good job on that. Now, is this acceptable? Is this unacceptable? Now, excluding the unlocked carabiner, make sure all your carabiners are locked. This setup as is 100% acceptable, even on a sharp edge. Like in the description, it does specify that the individuals inspected the rope protection. It's brand new. They did their due diligence. They did the risk assessment prior to heading up there and de-rigging these ropes, and deemed that this rope pro was more than adequate. Now, if you're not familiar with this rope pro specifically, head over to Chafe Pro on Instagram or Facebook, and they would be more than happy to fill you in on what this new rope protection is all about. Myself personally, I've been using it for a few weeks now, and can't say enough things about it. FYI, this is not a sponsored video. Now, now diving into some of the comments from the Facebook post there, a lot of people said, hey, you have to use steel slings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, steel slings over abrasive, sharp edges, absolutely. It is another option, but it's not the only option. Like I said, this is acceptable. There were people talking about pulleys, and I'm going to leave that conversation later to a later episode. There was people talking about alpine butterflies and the carabiners, and you should clip both of the alpines into both of the carabiners. Quite honestly, it doesn't matter. You could have one alpine, one rope, one alpine, one rope, and that's totally acceptable as well. In this case, I have both of the carabiners around both of the two drop lines. This is something that I personally like to teach and like to talk about because it doesn't matter if you're on the tails or if you're on the loop side. When you clip the two ropes, you can pull it down and the ropes will feed through. So those are the big key points here that I wanted to chat about. So don't overthink it. When it comes to rigging, keep it to the basic principles, and you would genuinely have a good understanding of the scenario. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. I hope that this kind of shines some light on this specific scenario here. Make sure to comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Or am I out to lunch? Is this something that you do? Obviously, we know that there's other ways of doing things. What exactly are different options that you do out in the field? All right. So thank you very much for tuning into today's episode. If you liked it, make sure to hit the thumbs up to show your support. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications. And I will see you on the next one.